bit more relaxing, I guess. And there's lots of stuff that you can do with the hips as well from that supine position, from lying down. So it's nice to warm up the hips in that fashion. Take a moment to allow the tension of the day to just melt away. As you close down the eyes, and you can bring the hands to rest on the belly. Feel the backs of the shoulders release. Feel the downward pull of gravity on the hips. And feel all of the points of contact with the mat. So if you had the knees bent, then feeling the feet on the earth, the texture of the mat, the temperature in the room. Feel the tailbone, and just above the tailbone, or at the boniest part at the base of the spine, the sacrum, can allow the lower back to also soften and release. So we all have a little bit of a lumbar curve in through the lower back. The spine is kind of an S-shaped position. But see if you can tell whether or not you have more than one or two hands with space between the low back and the mat. And if you do, you might benefit from lessening that space a little bit. So you can feel the belly release down towards the earth, the navel releasing down towards the spine, and the lower back softening down towards the mat. Bring your awareness to your breath and start to breathe more deeply. With the hands on the belly, you can bring extra emphasis to a long, smooth, deep, and even inhalation where you're drawing the breath downwards towards the lower belly. You can feel the belly rise beneath your hands. And as you exhale, feel the weight of the hands guiding the belly towards the spine towards the mat. Take your longest inhalation. And then your longest exhale. Your longest inhalation again. And when you get to the very top of that inhale, take a tiny extra sip more of air. And exhale fully. Your longest exhale, releasing toxins. And expel a tiny bit more air at the very bottom of that exhale. Long, smooth, deep, and even breath in, filling the lungs. Pause for just 1 second. And a long, smooth, deep, and even exhale. Empty out the lungs. Feel your lower abdominals contract. Pause for 1 second. And back to the inhale. And we'll do that cycle just 2 more times. Your longest breath in. Draw the breath right upwards towards the collarbones. Pause at the top of the inhale. And then your longest breath out. Lower abdominals engage. Pause for 1 second, end of the exhale. And back to the inhale for your last round. Lower the arms down alongside of the body. If your knees are bent, walk your feet forward, straighten out the legs. Take an inhale. Again, reach the arms back up overhead with your right hand. Take your left wrist, hinge over to the right side. Soften the outer left shoulder down towards the mat. Squeeze the right rib cage in towards the midline of your body. And cross the left ankle on top of the right one. Squeeze your inner thighs towards each other. Feel the back ribs move towards the mat as you breathe in. Inhale back to center, uncrossing the ankles. Left hand takes the right wrist, hinge over to your left. Soften the outer right shoulder down. Soften the rib cage down towards the earth. Cross the right ankle on top of the left one and squeeze your inner thighs towards each other. And inhale, return to center. Lower the arms down, walk the feet in towards your hips. Firmly press your low back into the mat. This is tucking the tailbone under. It's that rounded position that you would find in cat-cow. Your core abdominals are engaged here. And inhale and tilt the pelvis forward. Create as much space between the low back and the mat as you can. Exhale, do the very opposite. Press your low back into the floor, scoop the tailbone under. Inhale, tilt the pelvis forward, a lot of space between the low back and the mat. Exhale and round, press low back into the floor. Inhale, tilt the pelvis forward. Adding on, exhale, low back, grounded. Keep the feet connected with the mat, toes, root down. Inhale, lift the hips up. So when we move into bridge pose, the toes oftentimes lift up off the floor, but keep all 10 toes grounded, and especially the mounds of the big toes. So the inner edges of the feet releasing down. Visualize a plank position with your back, where you've got the back line of the body nice and straight, and you're trying to lift your buttocks muscles higher and higher towards the ceiling. So not compressing through the lower back, but actively engaging the glutes. Now feel your hamstring muscles fire the backs of the legs as you attempt to drag the heels towards your shoulders and press the knees forward. So heels drawing in the direction of the head, knees press forward. Keep the knees tracking over the ankles and a slight engagement of the inner thighs. 5 breaths. Slowly, slowly lower down, and you're only lowering down to hover your hips above the floor. The lower that you're hovering, the more difficult it's going to be. Try to eliminate any wobbling, any shifting of your hips from side to side. Reconnect with the sense of scooping the tailbone under or forward, back line of the body nice and straight. Keep the toes grounded. Inhale. Squeeze your glutes. Exhale, lift the hips up, not feeling this in the low back. Drag the heels towards the shoulders. Press your knees forward, widen across the collarbones. And it goes without saying that anytime you need a break, feel free to take one. Soften the chin away from the chest. 5 breaths. And curl your way down 1 vertebra at a time. Feel your lower back connect with the mat. Bring the soles of the feet together and drop the knees out to the sides away from each other. Try to seal the outer edges of your feet together, so the baby toe sides. Take the hands to the upper thighs and use your hands to guide the thighs in the direction of the knees. So you're just kind of creating space in and around the hip socket. And the weight of the hands alone will help to draw the knees closer to the floor. You might notice if one knee is lifted higher than the other, suggesting that that set of muscles is maybe a little tighter than the other. Then bring the hands to the knees and guide them side by side. Cross the right ankle on top of your left thigh. Pick the left foot up, bring the hands through to interlace around the left thigh. You could also interlace around the left shin if you wanted. And if you need to lift the head up off the floor in order to hold on to the back of the thigh, that's not ideal. So I would recommend either keeping your foot on the floor, or you could slide a block under your head. And this actually feels kind of nice, even if you don't necessarily need to use it. Keep sending the tailbone forward. So you want to feel that the low back is lengthening. Flex the right ankle, the toes move in the direction of the knee. And maybe your right arm will connect with the right thigh and press the knee forward. As you're drawing the left thigh in, keep softening the shoulders away from the ears. Soften the jaw, soften the muscles of the face. Now see if you can lighten the grip of your hands and use the hip flexor muscles on the left side to draw the left thigh in closer. So you might think, well, how do I use my hip flexor muscles? Well, just in attempting to pull the left thigh in, you're engaging those muscles. So without using the hands, or lighten the grip of your hands, strengthen the left hip flexors, pull the left thigh in, and at the same time, open up through the right hip as the knee slides forward. And take your left foot down. Keep the ankle crossed over the thigh, drop your legs out over to the left. And if your left hand will find the right ankle, hold on to the ankle. Stretch the right arm overhead, a half diamond shape. Press the right knee forward. Then you're using your abductor muscles to do that. Soften the rib cage down so that we can maintain length through the lower back, not creating strain there. Maybe feeling a stretch through the outer right side leg and through the right hip. And lower the arm down and come back to center. Cross the right knee on top of the left one. Bring both legs into the chest. You can take your hands onto the upper knee. So lots of options here. You could also take opposite hand to shin, or maybe you want to start to slide the hands down towards the ankles. One is not more advanced than the other. They're different. And that's about it. So each option has its own merits. Now, if you do have the ankles, it's kind of interesting to try pushing the feet away from the hips and forward instead of squeezing the heels in. So that's one way of working the hips, but another way is to press the feet away from each other. And again, just noticing the difference. Uncross the legs, straighten the right one out, draw the left knee into the chest, interlace the hands around the left leg. Press forward with the right heel, gently draw the right toes in the direction of your nose so the right leg is nice and active. Press the right thigh down towards the floor. Inhale, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, squeeze the left knee in closer. Inhale, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, bring the knee a little bit closer to your left shoulder rather than directly into the chest. And we'll straighten out the left leg and interlace the hands behind the leg. Take the sole of the foot towards the sky. You can point your toes, press through the heel, rotate the ankle, just bring a little bit of movement into the ankle joint while we stretch out the hamstrings. And rebend your left knee, stretch your left arm out, use the right hand and guide the knee over to the right into a spinal twist. Gaze in a direction of your choice. It might be to the right or up to the ceiling or along the left arm. Instead of focusing so much on where you're looking, bring your awareness to the right hand and feel like you're drawing the knee away from the hip and gently down towards the floor. So that same sensation of drawing the knee away from the hip joint to create space. But instead of the inner thigh muscles, we're working the outer hips in the same fashion. And then come back to center. Press into your left foot, shift your hips slightly right, bend the right knee, change sides, cross the left ankle over the right thigh. Either stay here using your left hand to push the knee forward or pick the right foot up, interlace your hands in behind the thigh or in around the shin. So if you've got the interlacing around the thigh, you're using your bicep muscles of the upper arms to bring the leg in closer. This can target a nice stretch in the outer left hip. But if you just then lessen the grip a little bit and strengthen the right hip flexor muscles, equally beneficial, but in a different way. Left ankle flexed, it looks like a standing foot. And lower the foot down, the ankle stays crossed over the thigh, drop both legs out over to the right. With your right hand, take the left ankle, if you can. Stretch your left arm overhead, a half diamond shape, press the knee forward. And then release the rib cage down towards the earth. If you feel the ribs pressing upwards towards the ceiling, then chances are you're overarching through the lower back. Instead, we want a little bit of contraction along the front of the body to support the lower back. Feel the outer hip muscles on that left side working. Come back to center and cross the left knee directly on top of the right one. Bring both legs into the chest. Hold on to the upper knee or shin or all the way down towards the ankles, whichever you can comfortably take a hold of. Still sending the tailbone forward, a sense of length through the lower back. Uncross the legs, straighten your left one out. Draw the right knee into the chest, interlace your hands around the right leg. Press your left heel forward, inhale, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, draw the leg in closer. Inhale, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, bring the knee a little bit closer to the right shoulder rather than flat into the chest. Come back to center and interlace your hands behind the leg, sole of the foot to the sky. Point your toes, press through the heel, and rotate the ankle. And rebend into the knees, stretch your right arm out to the side, use the left hand, guide your knee over to the left into a spinal twist. And the gaze can be to the left, to the ceiling, or along the right arm. But then take your awareness to the left hand and feel that the knee is sliding away from the hip, slightly forward and down. And breathe into the right hip, the lower back. And come back to center. Press into your right foot, shift your hips left, bring both legs into the chest and wrap the arms around the legs. Give yourself a nice tight squeeze. Pull your thighs downwards into your torso, press the length of your spine into the mat. Reach the right arm up overhead, rock over onto your right side. Press into your left hand to lift yourself up, turn facing forward, and come on to all four. So hands and knees position. Spread out the fingers, turn your toes under, start to move through cat-cow. Inhale, you're arching, release the belly towards the mat. Exhale, round. Pull the navel to the spine and feel your core engage. Inhale the gaze forward, shoulders away from the ears. Exhale, round, press into the hands. Inhale. And exhale. Last time. Pause on the exhale, hover your knees above the mat. Pull the navel towards the spine and imagine that you want to drag the knees towards the hands and the hands towards the knees to really fire up your core. Take half downward facing dog, down dog with knees bent. Hold for 3. And finally, straighten the legs. You can pedal out the heels, little shift of your hips, whatever your body is craving in downward facing dog. Maybe you prefer stillness. And then settle into stillness. Heels hide behind the toes, outer edges of the feet aligned with the outer sides of the mat. Release the crown of the head towards the thumbs. And imagine wrapping the outer shoulders down towards the floor. So it's like you're softening the outer shoulders down towards the floor, broadening across the upper back. Squeeze the biceps in towards the ears, and when you really firm the elbows, you allow the neck to lengthen and relax. Walk your hands to your feet, come to the back of the mat, and fold over the legs. Take opposite hand to elbow and pull the elbows towards the earth. Look between the knees. So if your low back feels sensitive, you can bend the knees, release the hamstrings, and maintain a nice long spine in this stretch. Shift a little from side to side. And back to center. Lower the hands down, toe heel your feet to mat width distance apart. And hold on to the backs of the legs. Draw yourself into a deeper forward fold. Hug the forearms in towards the outer shins. Keep drawing the shoulders away from the ears. Look between the knees, lengthen out through the back of the neck. Press your feet into the floor. Without moving the torso, bend your right knee. Keep leaning the torso forward. So when I say without moving it, don't move it over to the right. Feel like the torso is still tracking that center line. Straighten out the right leg. Torso stays aligned with center. Bend your left knee. Straighten out your left leg. And take the hands to the low back. Root down through the feet with an inhale. Rise all the way up. Exhale, gently slide the hips forward. Lift your heart center. And come to neutral. Interlace your hands behind you. Roll your shoulders back and down without arching back. Lift your arms up off your back. Attempt to pull the hands apart. Squeeze your shoulder blades towards each other. Come just halfway down, keeping the arms lifting up off your back. Feel the front ribs moving away from your shirt. Draw the belly towards the spine, engage your core. Bend your left knee, drop the left shoulder, look to the right. Come back to center, bend the right knee, drop the right shoulder, look left. And back to center. Fold all the way forward between the legs, float the arms up, and attempt to pull your hands apart without actually doing so. Lower your hands to the floor, keep the feet mat width distance, and walk forward, downward facing dog. Just a different version of downward facing dog. Keep the heels aligned with the outer sides of the mat. Keep the torso tracking towards the midline and bend the right knee. So you're not leaning right, still along center. Straighten out the right leg, bend the left knee. Keep the torso tracking towards the midline. And straighten the left leg. Step your feet back in hip width distance. Come up high onto the balls of the feet, look forward, step to the top of the mat, lift halfway up, and fold over the legs. Round your way up through the spine, one vertebra at a time. Arms reach up overhead, inhale, interlace your fingers, exhale, and hinge to your right. Inhale, center, exhale, hinge left. Inhale back to center, exhale your hands to your hips. Cross the left foot in front of the right, squeeze your inner thighs together, fold forward over the legs. Hold on to the backs of the legs and press the inner edges of your feet into the floor. So mounds of the big toes, inner edges of the heels, root down firmly. Hands come back to the hips, press into your feet with an inhale, rise up. Uncross, recross, right foot in top. Fold forward. Slide the hands down the legs, squeeze your inner thighs together. Press the inner edges of your feet into the floor. Lengthen through the back of the neck. Hands come back to the hips, press into your feet with an inhale, rise up. Uncross. Stretch the arms up overhead, feet are side by side. Exhale and bend into the knees. Slide the hands onto the knees and round your spine. Pull the belly in like you want to hollow out the belly. Scoop the tailbone under. Inhale, draw the chest forward, lift your gaze up, cat-cow style. Exhale, round, pull the belly in. Inhale, arching. Exhale, round. Last time, inhale. Exhale. Draw the gaze forward, keep your knees bent, and cross your left arm over the chest. Right arm comes underneath, stretching out the shoulder. And either give yourself a hug, reaching for the shoulders, or move right into Garudasana arms, eagle arms. Press the inner elbows together, forearms together. Rise up onto the ball of the right foot. Option one, cross the right knee on top of the left and keep the toes on the floor. Maybe find a really deep bend in that left knee and tuck the toes in behind the calf muscle. If you're there, squeeze the inner knees, inner thighs together. Hold and breathe. Uncross the legs, uncross the arms. Take an inhale, stand up. And exhale, bend into the knees. Feet and knees side by side, press them together. Hands come to the knees, a little cat-cow. Inhale, lift your heart center. Exhale, round, pull the belly in tight. Inhale, arching the back. Exhale, round, navel to the spine. Last time, breathe in. And exhale. Take your gaze forward, cross the right arm over the chest, left arm underneath. Then either give yourself a hug, hands to opposite shoulders, or Garudasana arms fully. Press the inner elbows together, forearms together, fingers and palms together. Rise up onto the ball of the left foot. Cross the leg over. Squeeze the inner thighs together. Hold and breathe. Uncross arms and legs. Take an inhale, reach up. And then you can exhale and fold forward. Lift halfway up, breathe in. A deeper forward fold, exhale. Separate your feet hip width distance. Take a big step back with the right foot. Spin the right heel to the floor, bring the hands to the hips. Slide the tailbone towards the back heel. Draw your outer right hip forward. And with an inhale, rise up, warrior A. So now you can use your middle fingers to lift the front hip bones up towards the lower ribs, lengthening through the lower back. Continue sending the tailbone down towards the back heel. Hold and breathe. Reach the arms up overhead, inhale. With your left hand, take the right wrist to baby hinge left. Keep squeezing or sending that outer right hip forward, outer left hip back. Inhale up through neutral and turn to face the long edge of your mat. Adjust the position of your feet. Maybe you take a little bit of a wider stance. Squeeze the heels towards each other. Feel the inner thighs engage. Take an inhale, reach the arms up overhead, straighten both legs. Exhale, bend into the knee. Inhale, arms up, legs straight. Exhale, bend into the knee. Last time, breathe in. And exhale. Shift your torso left, take the forearm to the thigh, bring the right arm up and along the plane of the cheek. So we want to work the outer hip muscles. You can be hanging out in this pose, which is challenging enough. But to really work that outer hip musculature, try to pull the tailbone forward. Keep the knee moving towards the baby toe. Lower belly drawing in. Hold for 3. Back to warrior B. Straighten out the leg. Right hand comes down, turn your left palm to the sky. Trace the ceiling with your fingertips. Slide the right hand down towards the back of the knee. Breathe into the left rib cage. Come up through center, reach to your left, take triangle pose. Spin the right arm up. And see if you can again target the outer hips. So pull the tailbone forward, lean the upper body slightly back. Soften the upper rib cage down to actually engage some of the abdominal muscles when you do that. Hold for 3. Press your feet into the floor. Inhale, rise up. Both hands come to the hips. Pivot to face the long edge of the mat. Draw your elbows towards each other. Lift your heart center. Come just halfway down. Front hip bones towards the lower ribs, core engaged, back flat. Take another inhale and exhale, fold all the way forward. You can rest the hands on the legs or take the hands to the floor or opposite hand to elbow. Lower the hands down, pivot to face the short edge of the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot. And finish with a twist. Right fingertips stay grounded. Inhale and stretch your left arm up. Squeeze the inner thigh muscles towards each other. Work the adductor muscles. Lower the left hand down. Push off the back foot, step forward, fold forward. Reach to the side, rise up, breathe in. Interlace the hands overhead, turn the palms of your hands to the sky. Send the tailbone towards your heels, draw the front ribs back, take an inhale. Exhale, hinge right. Press into your left foot. Inhale, center. And exhale, left. Press into the right foot. Inhale back to center. And exhale, hands to the hips. Take a big step back with the left foot. Spin your heel to the floor. Take the hands to the hips, send the tailbone towards the back heel. But at the same time, use your left hand, draw the outer left hip forward. To press the mound of the big toe down on the front foot. Feel the left heel anchoring down. With an inhale, rise up, warrior A. Use the middle fingers, lift the front hip bones towards the lower ribs, so there's a lengthening through the lower back. Imagine dragging the left heel towards the back of the mat. Hold and breathe. Stretch the arms up overhead. Inhale. Right hand, left wrist, hinge to the right. Inhale back up through center and exhale, turn, left arms outstretched. Warrior B. Attempt to squeeze the feet, the heels in towards each other. Feel the inner thigh muscles engage. Pull the hips and pelvis forward. Lift the front hip bones up. Inhale, arms up overhead, both legs straight. Exhale, bend into the knee. Inhale, reach up. And exhale. Last time, inhale. And exhale. Lean to your right, take forearm to the thigh, spin the left arm along the plane of your cheek. Now try to visualize your right hip sliding back. It naturally will do. Even if you feel like it's fairly tucked inwards, chances are you've got a little bit more that you could pull the hip in towards the midline. So do that. Feel the hips engage. And at the same time, squeeze the knee in the direction of the baby toe. Keep squeezing the heels in towards each other. So use the inner thigh muscles to support the pose. Hold for 3. Inhale back up, warrior B, arms outstretched. And straighten the leg. Left hand comes down, right arm reaches up, inhale. Exhale, slide the fingertips towards the back of the knee. Keep sliding the hips forward. Breathe into the right rib cage. Inhale back up to center. Reach all the way right, Trikonasana. Spin your left arm up. Send the tailbone towards the back heel. Squeeze the hips forward. Lean the torso slightly back. And then a really subtle cue is trying to feel that right sitting bone drawing towards the wall behind you. Like you're pulling the right hip back, but still along that center line. Press your feet into the floor. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, hands to the hips. Just shorten your stance a little bit, but then tuck the heels in and bend the knees. So most common is torso forward, bum back. Do the opposite. Bum forward, torso back. Work the outer hips, squeeze the knees towards the wall behind you as much as you can. So if you're doing that correctly, you should definitely feel something in those outer hip muscles. We'll take the right forearm to the thigh. Inhale, reach the left arm up and along the plane of the cheek. Inhale up through center. Exhale, change sides. Inhale, center. Both hands to the hips, straighten out your legs, turn the toes in and fold. Lower your fingertips to the floor, not staying here long. Pivot onto the ball of the back foot as you face forward, front knee bent, and reach the right arm up. Lower the right hand down. Step to the back of the mat, downward dog. Take your knees to the floor, child's pose. Slide the hips back towards the heels. Forehead releases towards the floor, whether or not it gets there. Arms can either be reaching overhead or alongside of the body, palms facing up. And you might be resting even on the forearms. Allow the breath to settle. And walk the hands under the shoulders, press into the hands, lift the head up. Swing your legs over to the right side, take them directly out in front and in a wide angle. Upavishta Konasana, so your best inner thigh stretch. Tilt the pelvis forward as best you can. Walk the hands or fingertips forward. You could rest forearms on a block or on the floor. Soften the inner thighs towards the earth. So create an internal rotation from the femur, the upper thigh bone, deep in that hip socket. And when you look at the feet, notice if the baby toes are leading, and try to lead from the mounds of the big toes. So more a sense of drawing the baby toes in the direction of your ears. And then that same cue in triangle pose to draw the sitting bones towards the wall behind you. See if you can do that again here. It helps to tilt the pelvis forward so you maintain a long spine and at the same time deepens the stretch of the hamstrings. And walk the hands in towards you. Take the hands under the knees, guide the soles of your feet together and fold over the legs. If you seal the outer edges of the feet together for Baddha Konasana, so you're sealing the outer edges of the feet, but with your hands, attempt to open up the soles of the feet like a book, like the pages of a book. And come back to center. Bring the knees side by side. Come to the top of the mat. Arms alongside of the body, look towards the belly. Curl down one vertebra at a time. Send the tailbone forward in the direction of the heels. Bring the right knee into the chest. Extend your left leg. Interlace your hands behind the right leg. Take the sole of the foot towards the sky. So here's where a strap might be useful if you happen to have one. Try to press the sole of the foot towards the ceiling. Create space around the hip socket. Now, if you have a strap, you could loop it under the arch of your foot. But if not, you're holding onto the outer side of that right leg. Anywhere along the leg. It might even be behind the knee, calf, outer edges of the foot or outer edge of the foot. Then stretch your left arm out on the floor. Pause here, don't go any further. Press your low back downwards into the mat. This is actually a core exercise. So low back stays grounded towards the floor. Slowly take the right leg out to the right without rocking onto your right side. So you're keeping collarbones, rib cage, belly, pelvis facing the ceiling. Low back stays grounding towards the earth. Lead from the mound of the big toe on that right side. Slide the left heel forward. And now squeeze the leg back in towards center. Left hand will take the outer leg, anywhere along the leg. Reach your right arm out on the floor. Hardly any movement here required as you drop the leg out to the left. But again, looking to keep everything squaring off to the ceiling. So chest, pelvis, you're not rocking onto that left hip. Try to use your mind's eye to visualize the left leg. Slide the mound of the left big toe forward. And then notice if you're really gripping the toes. Relax that a bit. Squeeze your inner thighs towards each other. So we did lots of good work for the outer hips here, and now we're getting a stretch in through those same muscles. Come back to center. Slowly and with control, lower the right leg down. And take the left leg in. Interlace your hands around the left leg. Just give it a nice squeeze, thigh towards the torso. Interlace your hands behind the leg, sole of the foot to the sky. And either you have the strap or you're holding on to the outer edge of the left leg. Reach your right arm out, engage your core, low back stays moving towards the floor. Draw the leg out to the left. Lead from the big toe side of the left foot. Use the mind's eye to visualize what's happening with the right foot. Slide the mound of the big toe on the right foot forward also. Keep the outer right hip drawing down towards the mat. And inhale, bring the leg back through center. Change hands. Right hand takes the outer leg. Left arm reaches out. In slow motion, bring the leg out to the right. Not a lot of movement is needed here to feel pretty deep stretch in the outer side of that leg. Lead with the mound of the big toe. Squeeze your inner thighs towards each other. Collarbones, rib cage facing towards the ceiling. Hold and breathe. And take the leg back to center. In slow motion, lower the leg down. Find your way into Shavasana. So as best you can, align yourself evenly on the mat. Get anything that you need to feel a little more comfortable. And take a moment to reconnect with some of the principles that we wove through the class tonight. Lower back releasing towards the floor. Not to the extent that you're feeling your abdominals engaged here, but you are softening the front ribs down. Buttocks muscles move in the direction of the heels. Then relax the feet. Soften the ankles, shins, and knees. Feel the upper thigh bones, the femurs, releasing down towards the earth. Allow the buttocks muscles to widen. As you inhale, feel your back ribs moving towards the mat. And as you exhale, feel the downward pull of gravity on the full weight of your body. Allow the collarbones to widen, the backs of the shoulders to release. And feel the weight of your head on the mat. Peeling back layers of tension with every exhale. Soften the muscles of the face and the jaw. Allow the eyes to sink deep into their sockets. Soften the temples and the inner ears. Unclench the teeth. Settle in for the last 12 breaths of your practice. Bring your awareness to your breath and start to breathe more deeply. Awaken the body, wiggle the fingers and the toes. Rotate the wrists and ankles a couple of times in both directions. Inhale through the nose, extend the arms overhead, lengthen the spine, point the toes. And through the mouth, exhale. Bring the knees to the chest and rock and roll forward and back and side to side. And find your way back to a seated cross-legged position with the eyes closed and the palms of the hands at the heart center. Sealing our practice with the sound of Om, we take a conscious breath in. Namaste. Thanks, everyone.